Still got a few chatterboxes over there. All right, we'll let them do their thing. I bet none of you were expecting to see me back up here tonight. But here at Happy Hour Homer, we're all about throwing you curveballs, keeping you on the very edge of your seat. That's what it's all about, and that's why I'm back up here again tonight. Woo! Now I hope you're all super pumped for another legendary episode of Happy Hour Homer. And boy, do I have good news for all of you. Now I know that I said it last week was going to be the week we were all waiting for. I did, that's what I said. I said that last week. But I did not lie. I did not lie, right? I mean, sure, Achilles was still crying, and sure, they all went to eat breakfast instead of going out to fight. And sure, Achilles wasted even more time by going out to talk to his horses. And sure, the gods teased us. They were going to go out and fight, but in the end, they just went off to the side, stood around, and watched. But Achilles did come back to fight, okay? Even if it was just for one line. But tonight, tonight is when it is really going down, okay? Achilles is really back. Achilles is really angry. Okay? And Achilles is looking for Hector. I know what you're thinking. This is the exact same thing I said last week. The exact same thing, basically verbatim, okay? But forget it. Just enjoy episode 24, Return of the Achilles. All right, that's it. Have a good night.
Pavoni, everybody! shone terribly from them, from the bronze of the horses and the men, as now the whole plain filled up. Now the thundering from their feet was terrible as they all rushed at one another, and there were two men especially who were so excellent at fighting. These two stood out from everyone else, and they were the ones that most wanted to fight against one another. It was Anchises' strong son, Aeneas, and brilliant Achilles. So now these two, they were rushing at one another, and it was Achilles. No, it was Aeneas. Now he was threatening and nodding with his head like... He was holding his shield out in front of him, and he was shaking his spear. And Achilles on the other side, well, Achilles was actually like a ravenous lion. He was like a lion that has been chased by all of these men. Actually, all the men in the city together now are after him and hunting him, but he don't care. He's just like, he's rushing forward. And then one of these young men hits him with a spear, and so he wheels round now with his gaping mouth, foaming at his teeth. And now the manly heart inside this lion drives him forward so that either he will kill one of these men or they will kill him. That's the kind of rage that now drove Achilles forward as he rushed at Aeneas. And as these two came close to one another, it was fast-footed, brilliant Achilles that was the first to speak as he said, "Hey, Aeneas, why have you now come so far out in front of all the other Trojans? Are you thinking that maybe they'll give you the rule over Troy? You know that's a prize that Priam's never going to put in your hands, right? You know that Priam's got a lot of sons? A lot. And you know he's no slouch either. I mean, he's not senile. Maybe the Trojans told you that they were going to give you some sweet piece of land, like a garden or an orchard to manage if you killed me. But it's not going to be easy to kill me. Don't you remember that time before? You ran away before my spear. Yeah, it was up on Mount Ida. You were with your cows. And boy, did you go running fast down those peaks. You didn't look back once. And then you got into Lyrnessos. What did I do? I sacked Lyrnessos. And I took away the day of freedom from all of the women and made them slaves, as you do. So that time it was Zeus and the other gods that saved you, but I do not think that they will save you now. I don't think that this notion you've thrown in your mind is going to play out. So now I think you should just back up. Back up, because otherwise something bad might happen to you. And there are a lot of good tidbits of knowledge in this week's speeches, and this is tidbit number 1. Even a fool knows when something bad has happened. That's what he said. And now Aeneas, on the other side, answered and said, "Brilliant son of Priam. Okay, don't talk to me and like I'm some kid. Try to scare me with these insults. I know all of the bad insults. Okay? And you know, we know all about each other's families. We've heard all the famous songs of men. Maybe I've never seen your folks in person. You've never seen mine. But I know that your dad is blameless Peleus and your mom is Thetis and she's a sea goddess and she's got great braids. And I know that one of these sets of parents is going to be crying tonight over their son because this between us is not going to stay just between words for long. But if you would like to learn more about my family so that you can know it completely well, as many other men do, I'm happy to tell you. So, cloud-gathering Zeus. He had a son, Dardanus. And Dardanus, then he founded a city right here on this plain before Iliad was ever here. And he named that city Dardanus. Right. Then Dardanus, he had a son who was Erichthonius. And Erichthonius, he became the richest of all men ever. He had 3,000 horses. And these horses, they just ate in the marshy meadow and exulted with their colts, with their foals. And then the north wind came and saw the horses eating and immediately fell in love with them and had sex with them. And so then the horses that were born from that, there were 12 of them, these horses were so fast. These horses were so fast that when they ran across the wide earth, they ran on top of the wheat and didn't bend down the stalks of the divine grain at all. I mean, they were so fast that when they went over the wide back of the sea, they ran on top of the foamy breaks of the waves. They were just like whoosh. So anyway, then Erecthonius had a kid who was called Tros. Tros, of course, became the ruler of all of the Trojans. And Tros, he had 3 blameless sons. Those sons were Elos, Assaracos, and Ganymede. Now, Ganymede, he was the hottest of all men ever. So the gods just snatched him up so that he could be the wine bearer of Zeus, because the gods, I mean, they wanted him to hang out with the immortals forever. Okay, and then Ilios, he had Laomedon, and then Laomedon, he had, well, Tithonus and Priam and Lampos and Clytius and Hikation, he's the scion of Ares. And then Assaracos, he had Capys, and Capys had Anchises, and Anchises, well, he's my dad. And Priam, we all know Priam was his brilliant Hector's dad. So anyway, that's my blood and all my family that I want to brag about to you. But you know, I don't think that we should keep insulting each other like this, just in the middle of all of this hateful battle that's going on around us. Tidbit number 2. Zeus can augment or diminish a man's excellence as ever he wants to, because he is the most powerful. So, I really don't think we should keep insulting one another in this conflict like children. I mean, you know, there are enough insults that can be traded between us that they can actually fill up a whole boat with 100 benches. Tidbit number 3. Did you know that the tongue of a man is a twisty thing, and the content of speeches can cover so many spheres? They can go here, and they can go there. Tidbit number 4. Whatever kind of thing you say, that's the kind of thing you hear. But I still don't think that we should fight against one another like women who start in these life-destroying conflicts over God knows what, and they come out in the middle of the street and they're yelling at each other, and some of the things that they say is true and some of it is not, because, you know, anger is just urging them on. So yeah, you know, I mean, I think that this fight with words should actually become like a fight. And now, as soon as possible, I think that we should try to have a taste of one another with our spears. So that's what Aeneas said. And he threw the long, balanced spear. And it hit right in the middle of Achilles' shield. Now, the shield actually groaned all around the spear tip, this divine and terrible to look at shield. And Achilles was actually scared. Now he thought that the heavy, long shadow spear of Aeneas had gone straight through his shield. Idiot! I mean, doesn't he know that the gifts of the gods, this shit from the mortals is not going to do anything to it? So, no. Okay, the spear of Aeneas did not go all the way through the shield, and the gold protected him. Let me explain again about this shield. So Hephaestus, who has a disability of 1 foot, he made this shield with 5 layers. So the 2 outer layers are made of bronze, and then the next 2 layers are made of tin, and then the inner layer, the very middle, is made of gold. And so now, it was Aeneas' heavy spear that went through 2 of these layers. But there's still 3 left. And it's stuck right in the gold layer. So now Achilles, he threw his long shadow spear, and it went through Aeneas's perfectly round shield. And it went through. It went through the top, right where the bull hide and the bronze are both thinnest in their layers. And it went right through both of these layers, even though Aeneas was holding it far out away from his body now, so that it went and stuck in the earth. But now this great grief came over Aeneas because he knew that that one was close. He knew that that was close. And now Achilles is rushing at him with his sharp spear. And now Aeneas, he picks up a huge rock, and this is not some small rock, okay? Two guys like the kind of guys we have now, like any of the guys, they couldn't pick up this rock, but Aeneas, he just picked it up by himself so easily, like it was nothing. And now Aeneas would have thrown that rock and he would have hit Achilles either on the shield or on the helmet, but those would have protected Achilles from hateful death. And then Achilles would have come rushing with his sword and he would have robbed Aeneas' life. Except that's not what happened. What happened instead was that Poseidon saw everything that was going on the battlefield. And right away, he went towards all the other immortal gods. And he said to those gods, "Oh, boy, now I feel great grief that Aeneas is going to go down by the spear of Peleus' son Achilles. You know, he is a blameless man. He has not done anything wrong. Should we let him suffer over the anger of other men? I mean, all of you gods, you have been delighted when he has left gifts for you. So come on, let's now save him from death." I mean, Dardanus is Zeus's favorite. Of all of the children that he had with mortal women, he loves Dardanus the most, and his family should never become unspermed or invisible. But Aeneas is supposed to survive. It is Aeneas and his sons' sons that are supposed to rule over the Trojans from this time forward. So that's what Poseidon said. And the cow-eyed lady Hera now said to him, "Earthshaker Poseidon, look, as excellent as Aeneas is, you are going to have to decide for yourself whether or not you want to save him, or whether you should let him go down at the spear of brilliant Achilles. As for me and Pallas Athena, we have sworn so many oaths to all of the other immortals that we will never, ever protect the Trojans from their day of destruction, not even when the flaming fire burns all through their city of Iliad, when all of Troy burns to the ground in the hands of the sons of the Achaeans." So when Poseidon heard that, he just went straight down to the battlefield. And it was there that first he put a mist over the eyes of Achilles. And then he went and got Achilles' spear up out of Aeneas' shield. And he put it right in front of Achilles' feet. And then, that was when he lifted up. Sorry for the sound effects. Tried to avoid them, and I can't. He lifted up. No. Faster. He lifted up Aeneas off the ground and into the air. And so then the divine hand of the god threw him. Over ranks of men and of horses, so that he landed right there where the furious battle was at the very edge, and the Ciconians are just starting to get ready for battle now. And then Poseidon went and spoke to him, standing beside him. He said, "Aeneas, now which one of the gods deluded you into thinking that you could fight against Achilles? You know he's better than you, right? And the gods love him more, so back up. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. And then you're going to go down to Hades beyond what is fated. But once Achilles meets his fate, once he dies, that's when you can fight in the front lines without any fear, because there is no other Achaean that can ever kill you. That's what he said. And now that he'd explained everything, he left him. And he went back to the battlefield, and the first thing he did was he took the divine mist away from Achilles' eyes. So now Achilles was looking around everywhere, and he was really upset. And he spoke to his own heart. What is this? Here's my spear in front of my feet on the ground, but where's the guy that I really wanted to kill? You know, Aeneas said that the gods loved him, and I guess he did not brag in vain. Well, that's fine, let him speak. I mean, if he doesn't want to fight against me, I guess he's really happy to have escaped death. But I am going to urge all of the Achaeans now to fight against the Trojans so that I myself can try and fight in the front lines. That's what he said. And now he turned to all of the Achaeans and he shouted out, "Brilliant Achaeans! Now is not the time to fight far away from the Trojans. Now is the time for man to face man and to fight. You know, it's hard, even for me, as strong as I am, to fight in this kind of battle with however many men there are here. I mean, I don't even think that Ares, who is mighty in war, could face this number of men by himself. I don't even think that Athena, who is so mighty in war, could face this number of men. But I think that as long as I have strength in my hands and strength in my feet, as long as my heart still urges me to go on, I will never give way. Not even a little bit. Not until I run all the way through. All the way through the Trojan front lines. Not until every single one of those Trojans will be unhappy to face my spear. So that's what he said. And now on the other side, it was Hector who called out to all the Trojans. Trojans! Now I don't want any of you to be scared of the son of Peleus, Achilles. Okay? Even I could fight against all the gods with words, but I couldn't with a spear. I mean, they are much more powerful than I am. But Achilles, now all of this stuff he said, sure, some of it will come true, but half of it will not. Half of it will be cut off. Now I myself will go and face Achilles and stand against him, even though his hands are like fire. His hands are like fire, and his battle fury is like flashing iron. That's what Hector now said. And all of the Trojans, all of their battle fury now came together in a mix, and there was a huge battle cry that arose from all of them. But then Phoebus Apollo, he came and stood right next to Hector, and he was like, Hector, son of Priam, don't go and fight against Achilles.
No,
another tidbit. Because you should wait in the crowd outside of the melee. Otherwise, you might get hit by a spear or a sword. So that's what Phoebus Apollo said. And then Hector, he was terrified when he heard the god's voice, and so he sank back into the crowd. But Achilles now, he armed himself in his mind, and he screamed terribly as he went forward. And the first man that he killed was Iphition. Iphition, who was the son of Otrynteus, the city sacker. Now, Otrynteus had Iphition with a naiad up on Tros. Nope, that's not it. Smolus. By the fat land of Hades. And Iphition, he was rushing forward. Achilles struck him right in the middle of the head. Struck him in the middle of the head so that the whole head now split in two. And then he lied there. And that was when Achilles bragged over the body and said, "Lie there, son of Otrynteus, most terrible man ever." Yeah, right. Yeah, you were born by the Gideon Lake, but you will have your death here, far, far from that sweet piece of land that your daddy has by the Ichthos, fishy Pylos, and the running Hermos. That's what he said. And he left him. The next man, and then the horses of the Achaeans, I always forget that line. Then the horses of the Achaeans ran over his body and cut him in two. Okay. The next man that he killed was Hippodamus. Now Hippodamus is rushing to get up behind his horses, but that's when Achilles stabbed him in the back. And now Hippodamus, he breathed and belched out his manly life like a bull breathes and belches out his life when two young men are dragging it, and the bull is dragged towards the Heliconian lord Poseidon. You know Poseidon, he just loves those bulls. That's now how Hippodamus breathed and belched out his whole life. Next, it was Polydorus. Now, Polydorus was Priam's son. He was the youngest son. He was the favorite son. I mean, Priam, his dad, had told him he didn't want him to go and fight. And Polydorus, he was the fastest in foot races. I mean, he was always winning. So now, the idiot, he wanted to show off. He wanted to run, and he went running straight through the front lines. And that was when Achilles got him straight through the back. It was right where these two clasps come together of the zoster, the war belt, and they held together the double layers of the breastplate as well. And Achilles stabbed so that it came straight through, out next to the belly button. So Polydorus now, he fell to his knees, and a dark mist covered over all of his eyes. And he had to catch his pouring guts in his own hands. And Hector, he saw Polydorus now down on his knees, his guts in his hands, and now Hector, he couldn't stay away. He couldn't stand at the very edge of the battle anymore, turned the other way. Now Hector, he went rushing forward, his spear like flame. And Achilles, when Achilles saw Hector, he leapt forwards. I know all of the bad insults. And I also know that you are better than me. And I'm worse. But all of these things fall at the needs of the gods. And even if I am worse, I can still kill you with my spear throw because my spear has been sharp before. That's what he said, and he balanced his long shadow spear and he threw. And Pallas Athena just blew it right back at him. Just blew it so easily, like, so that it landed at his feet on the floor. And now Achilles rushed forward. He rushed, and that was when Apollo came and snatched up Hector, snatched him up into the air, wrapped him in a deep mist. So 3 times now Achilles charged, but every time, he just hit a wall of heavy mist. And on the 4th time, as now Achilles, he charged like a demon. He yelled out, "Oh, Hector, you dog!" So now you've escaped death again. It's only because Phoebus Apollo came and rescued you. It was close this time, Phoebus Apollo, because you pray to him before you go into the thud of battle every time. That's okay. We'll face off some other time, and then there will be a god on my side. And until then, I'll just kill other Trojans. Whatever Trojan I can find. That's what he said. And he killed Dryas. He killed him right through the middle of his neck with his sword, so that he fell now to the ground. And then Achilles left him. Now Achilles, he got Demuchus. It's an awesome name. Got Demuchus, loosened his knees with the spear before killing him with the sword. Aww. I know. He's so violent, but he's so violent. Next it was Lauganos and Dardanos, who were the twin sons of Bias. I don't know if they were actually twins, they were just 2 of them. One of them he got with the spear, the other he got with the sword. And then there was Tros. Tros now, he came running at Achilles. Running at Achilles so that he could grab him by the knees and make himself a suppliant. This is an actual thing. Becoming a suppliant, if you get someone's knees in the heat of battle, they are supposed to let you live. And so now Tros, he comes trying to get Achilles' knees, but oh shit. But what happens? As Tros comes under his knees, well, the fool, what did he think? Did he think that Achilles was some sweetheart? Did he think that Achilles was some gentle-minded man? Now, as Tros grabbed hold of his knees, Achilles stabbed him in the liver. And then the liver just slipped out so that his whole garment was completely soaked with the black blood. And he was stretched out on the ground, furious fate and death covering over him. Then it was Mulios. Mulios now, he got with the spear in one ear and through the helmet so that it came out the other ear. Then it was Echeclus. Echeclus, who was Aganor's son, now he came at him with his sword, hit him right in the middle of the head, so that his whole blade was warmed with the blood. Next it was Deucalion. Deucalion, he got it with the spear in one of his elbows where all the tendons come together in the arm. And so his arm dead, he had to look death in the face as Achilles now used his sword and hacked off his head, so that the head fell, still in the helmet, and now all of the spinal fluid spurted out of the top. Then it was Rigmos. Rigmos, who was Paris' blameless son. He used to live in fertile Thrace. He was getting up into his chariot, and that was when Achilles stabbed him right through the middle so that his spear stuck in his belly. And then he brought it around and killed Areithous, who was his awesome sidekick, his charioteer, pushed him straight through with his spear through the back so that he fell out of the horses, and now the horses, they just ran in confusion. So that was what Achilles was like. Achilles was like, it's like when there's a fire in the forest and it goes even through the deep bends and gets all of the woods. It completely consumes everything. That's how Achilles was. And now Achilles on his horses were like when you yoke up great oxes, and the oxen, they just run over all of the white barley on the threshing floor, crushing it. That's now how Achilles' chariot ran over so many corpses and shields alike, so that the axles and the wheels were completely spattered in blood, and Achilles himself, with his invincible hands, were covered in gore. So now all of these men, these Trojans, they ran. They ran as far as the river. This is the river Xanthos that Zeus is the dad of. And it was here that Achilles came and cut them in two, so that half of the men kept running towards the city across the plain. Now this is exactly where just yesterday Hector, the son of Priam, was raging and killing all of the Achaeans. But now the Trojans were stuck there as Hera came and put a thick mist over them all and stopped them. And now the other half of the men, they all fell into the river. And there was a huge sound as they splashed in with all of their armor, and the river itself roared on the inside of its banks. And now all of the men, they were being twisted in all of its eddies. They were swirling here and there, going in every direction as they tried to keep their heads above the water. Now they were like locusts that come into a river and hide cowering beneath its banks when they're trying to escape a forest fire or some kind of fire that sweeps across the land with the wind and consumes everything. And Achilles, he left his spear just by the bank of the river, resting against a tamarisk tree, and he just jumped into the river with his sword, slashing and hacking. And the sound of the screaming men, all those men that were hit, it was awful. And now the waves of the river ran red with all of their blood. Now the Trojans, they were like little fishes that tried to get away from a gaping mouthed dolphin. And they run into all of the small corners of the well-moored harbor, but the dolphin never gives up, and it eats all of the ones that it can find. And then Achilles got tired of killing. And when his hands got tired of killing, that was when he chose out 12 young Trojan men who were still alive. And he led them out along the banks of the river, and they were terrified. They were like deer in headlights. And he tied all of them up with their hands behind their backs. He used their own belts to tie them up, the ones that held up their twisted tunics. These were the 12 young men that would serve as a sacrifice, that would pay for the death of Menoetius' strong son Patroclus. And so Achilles, he took these men and he handed them off to his buddies to take back to the hollow ships. And that was when he once again raged to cleave. The lightsaber stopped working. It's so sad. Now the first man that he saw was Lycaon. Lycaon, who was Priam's son. Now Lycaon, he had actually taken captive before. He had gotten him when, there was just this one night that Lycaon went to his father's orchard and he was stripping wild fig trees. I guess they weren't wild because they were in an orchard, but they were fig trees. And he was making them into chariot wheels and chariot rails. And that was when Achilles kind of came onto him, an evil out of nowhere, and grabbed hold of him and took him captive against his will and sold him to Lemnos. And from Lemnos, that was where Jason took him. And then the guest friend Etion, who was from Imbrios, he ransomed him back to Priam. And then Priam finally had him, so that Lycaon had been home for 11 days. But now on the 12th day, once again, the gods and terrible fate threw him back into the hands of Achilles, who was going to send him down to Hades, even though he did not want to go. Lycaon, he had just come out of the river. And he was naked. I mean, he wasn't naked. Maybe he was. But he had taken off his heavy helmet and his shield and his sword and his spear. He was just so tired. So tired from escaping from the river. And that was when Achilles recognized him. And Achilles was just stunned, upset, as he spoke to his own heart and said, "Oh, Popoi, what is this I see? Now can the Trojans that I killed come back from the murky darkness? Now here's this man who escaped his fateful day and went to Lemnos, and somehow the gray sea couldn't hold him, even though the gray sea holds many men against their will. That's okay. Now I'm going to get him a taste of my spear, and then we'll see if the earth can hold him. Because the earth holds many men." That's what he said as he attacked. But now Lycaon came running and grabbed hold of his knees, supplicating him. And that was when Achilles threw his spear, but it went right over Lycaon's shoulder as he ducked down to the ground and grabbed Achilles by the knees. So now Lycaon, with one hand wrapped around Achilles' knees and the other grabbing hold of his spear, he supplicated Achilles. And remember, this is a real thing. "Son of Peleus, now I supplicate you. Now I put myself in this suppliant position so that you can respect me. Do not kill me. Take pity on me." Remember that day that we first shared Demeter's corn, when you led me against my will out of my father's well-built orchard and took me to Lemnos, and there you got 100 cattle for me, and my ransom was 12 times as much. And today is only the 12th day that I have made it home again to Iliad after I have gone through so much. And now some demon has thrown me back into your hands. It's clear that Zeus hates me. It's clear that my mom had me to be short-lived. My mom, Lauthoe, who was Altes' daughter, and he rules over the Legis and over Hypodassos, along the banks of the Satniois. And it was Priam that married Lauthoe. And he married a lot of other women too. But there were only 2 of us sons from Lauthoe and Priam. And you are both of our throat slitters. I saw you kill Polydorus in the front lines. And now I think the same terrible shit is going to happen to me. Some god has thrown me in your hands, and I do not think that I can escape, but I beg you, do not kill me. I did not come from the same stomach as Hector. Hector, who killed your kind and strong friend. So that's what he said. suffocating. But he did not hear a gentle word in response. Oh boy, don't talk to me about ransom, about supplication. You know, when Patroclus was still alive, I would take so many Trojans alive, I would ransom them, sell them off. But now there is not a single one of you Trojans that will escape. Not one that the gods throw into my hands. Especially not the sons of Priam. So, friend, you die too. Why should you cry about it like this? Patroclus died and he was much better than you are. And you see me, you see how fucking big and beautiful I am? You know, my dad's a nobleman, my mom's a goddess. But death and fate are coming for me too. It's gonna be some dawn, some afternoon, maybe it'll be lunchtime. Someone's gonna hit me with a spear or with an arrow from a string in the Battle of Ares. That's what he said. And when Lycaon heard these words, now he dropped the spear and he put up both of his hands. And Achilles sank his whole two-edged sword into Lycaon, just beside the neck, through the collarbone, so that he fell at his feet, and the ground became soaked now with his blood. And then he grabbed hold of Lycaon's corpse, and he threw it into the river. And he said, "Lie there now, where the fish will come and lick the blood from your wounds. Your mother will never come and take you into some bed and lament you. Instead, the swirling Scamandros will carry you into the bosom of the gray sea, and that's where some fish someday will break through a black wave, shuddering, and will feed on the fat of Lycaon. Die, all of you Trojans, everyone here between me and the city. All of you will have to die now, and this river, for all of the bulls that you sacrifice to it, will do nothing to save you. I don't care how many live horses you bury in its eddies. Now you must all die. Now you must pay. You must pay for the death of Patroclus and the slaughter of all the Achaeans.